The lawyer handed my sister the deed first. I watched her fingers close around the thick envelope, watched her eyes light up as she realized what she was holding. The family house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, the house we'd grown up in, the house our parents had spent 40 years paying off. Market value, $450,000. She actually squealed, hugged my parents, started crying those happy tears that make everyone else in the room feel like they should be crying too. Then the lawyer turned to me. He slid a small velvet box across the mahogany table. I knew before I opened it what would be inside. My mother's jewelry, a pearl necklace from the 70s. Her wedding ring, a thin gold band with a chip of a diamond. Some earrings that probably came from JCPenney. I opened the box, looked at the contents. Looked at my sister holding a deed worth $500,000. Looked at my parents, both of them smiling at Jessica like she'd just won the lottery. Neither of them were looking at me. I closed the box very carefully, set it on the table, and said, "This is what 36 years of being your daughter is worth?" My father's smile faltered. My mother reached across the table like she might touch my hand, but I pulled it back. "Sweetheart, it's not about worth." "Then what is it about?" I asked. My voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that comes right before something breaks. Because from where I'm sitting, Jessica gets a house, and I get some costume jewelry. So tell me, what is it about? The lawyer looked uncomfortable. Jessica had stopped crying. My father cleared his throat. "Jessica needs it more. She's starting a family. You're already established. You have a good job, a condo. She needs help getting started." "I bought my condo with money I saved working 2 jobs through college," I said. "While you paid Jessica's rent for 3 years after graduation. But sure, she needs help getting started." My mother's hand started to shake, just slightly, a tremor that made her coffee cup rattle against the saucer. I'd never seen her hands shake before. "We thought you'd understand," she whispered. "We thought you'd be happy for your sister." I stood up, picked up the velvet box, looked at it one more time. Then I set it back down on the table, right in front of my mother. "Keep it," I said. "Sell it if you want. Use it to furnish Jessica's new house. I don't need reminders of what I wasn't worth to you." I walked out of that lawyer's office and didn't look back. Not when Jessica called my name. Not when I heard my father's chair scrape back. I got in my car, drove home to my condo that I'd bought with money I'd earned, and sat in complete silence for 3 hours. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I was somewhere colder than that. I was done. But let me back up, because this wasn't about a house. This was about 36 years of being the daughter they settled for, while my sister was the one they celebrated. And if you've ever been the one who was loved less, who tried harder and received less, who learned early that fair wasn't a word that applied to you, then you already know how this story goes. Jessica was born 18 months after me. She was the easy baby, the one who slept through the night, who smiled for strangers, who made my mother look like a natural at parenting. I'd been colicky, difficult, the baby who cried for hours and made my mother count down the minutes until my father got home. She'd told me this story enough times that I had it memorized. "You were such a challenging baby. Jessica was a dream." By the time we were in elementary school, the roles were set. Jessica was the social one, the popular one, the one who got invited to birthday parties every weekend. I was the quiet one, the serious one, the one who spent recesses reading in the library. When Jessica brought home report cards with B's and C's, my parents celebrated her effort. When I brought home straight A's, I got a nod and, "That's what we expect from you." Good grades were my baseline. They didn't earn praise because they didn't require effort, at least not in my parents' eyes. Middle school brought boyfriends for Jessica. My mother helped her pick out outfits, gave her advice, treated her first crush like a momentous occasion. When I mentioned liking someone, Mom said, "Just focus on your grades, honey. Boys will come later." They never did come later, not in high school anyway. I was too busy working a part-time job to save for college while Jessica spent weekends at the mall with allowance money our parents gave her. College applications revealed the pattern in stark relief. Jessica wanted to go to a private liberal arts school 3 states away. Tuition was $40,000 a year. My parents said yes without hesitation, started making payments, took out a PLUS loan, told her to follow her dreams. I wanted to go to the state university an hour away. Tuition was $12,000 a year. I'd earned a partial scholarship that covered half. I asked if they could help with the rest. My father sat me down at the kitchen table. "We're stretched thin with Jessica's tuition," he said. "But you're resourceful. You'll figure it out." I figured it out. I worked 25 hours a week at a campus bookstore. I took out student loans. I graduated with $30,000 in debt and a degree in accounting. Jessica graduated with zero debt, a degree in communications she never used, and a 3-month backpacking trip through Europe that my parents paid for as a graduation gift. My graduation gift was a check for $500 and a card that said, "We're proud of you." I used the $500 for my CPA exam fees. Jessica used her Europe trip money to find herself. When she came back, she moved into an apartment downtown. My parents paid her rent for the first year while she figured out her path. I moved into a studio apartment with a roommate and ate ramen 4 nights a week while I studied for the CPA and worked full-time at an accounting firm. Every family dinner was a recital of Jessica's adventures. The job she'd tried and quit because the manager was mean. The new job she'd started at a boutique. The yoga teacher training she wanted to do. My parents listened with rapt attention, asking questions, offering encouragement. When they asked about my work, it was cursory. "Still doing accounting?" "That's nice." They never asked about the clients I'd landed or the promotion I'd earned or the 80-hour weeks during tax season that left me exhausted. When Jessica got engaged at 28, the wedding planning consumed our family for a year. My mother and sister talked daily. My father wrote checks without flinching. Dress, venue, flowers, band, everything Jessica wanted, she got. The wedding cost $60,000. It was beautiful. I was the maid of honor. I gave a speech about how lucky her fiancé was, how wonderful my sister was. I meant it. I loved Jessica. But standing there in a bridesmaid dress that cost $300, which I'd paid for myself, watching my parents cry tears of joy, I felt the familiar ache of being the forgotten daughter. 3 years later, I got engaged to David. We planned a small wedding, intimate, just close family and friends. We were paying for it ourselves. My parents offered to contribute $5,000. "It's what we can afford," Mom said. I didn't mention that Jessica's wedding had cost 12 times that much. I said thank you. David and I had a beautiful wedding in a garden, 40 guests, simple and perfect. My father made a nice speech, shorter than the one he'd given at Jessica's wedding, but nice. And through it all, through 36 years of being second, I built a life anyway. I made partner at my firm by 34. I bought a condo. I had a husband who saw me, who valued me, who'd never once compared me to anyone else. I had friends who chose to be in my life. I had clients who trusted me with their businesses. I'd built something real, something mine, without ever getting the support my sister had been given freely. Then our father got sick. Cancer. Aggressive. 6 months from diagnosis to the end. During that time, my parents did their estate planning. We'd never talked about inheritance. I'd never thought about it. But as Dad got sicker, he called us both in, said they'd be meeting with the lawyer after he passed, that everything was arranged, that they'd been fair. The funeral was hard. I loved my father despite everything. Grief is complicated when you're mourning someone who never quite saw you. After the service, after the burial, after the reception, we went to the lawyer's office. My mother, Jessica, Jessica's husband, me, and David. That's when the envelopes came out. That's when Jessica got the house and I got the jewelry box. I drove home that day and did something I'd never done before. I called in sick to work. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and a glass of wine, and I started calculating. Every dollar they'd spent on Jessica versus every dollar they'd spent on me. College tuition, Jessica's $160,000, mine $0. Rent money after college, Jessica's $18,000, mine $0. Wedding costs, Jessica's $60,000, mine $5,000. Plus, the house now, $450,000. Total investment in Jessica, $688,000. Total investment in me, $5,000. The jewelry they'd given me was worth maybe $3,000 if I was generous. So $8,000 total. I'd spent my whole life thinking maybe I was imagining the inequality, seeing patterns that weren't there, being too sensitive. But the numbers didn't lie. My parents had invested $680,000 in my sister's life and $8,000 in mine. An 85-to-1 ratio. That's what I was worth to them. 1/85th of my sister's value. I saved the spreadsheet, titled it Evidence. Then I did something that would change everything. I posted a question on a legal forum. My parents gave my sister their house and gave me jewelry worth 3% of the house's value. Do I have legal grounds to contest the estate? Responses came quickly. Most said no. Parents can distribute assets however they want. But one response caught my attention. A lawyer who specialized in estate law, probably not contestable legally, but definitely questionable ethically. If there's a pattern of favoritism, you might consider a different approach. Sometimes the court of public opinion matters more than a court of law. Document everything. Tell your story. Let them face what they've done. I sat with that advice for a week. Then I made a decision. I would tell the story, not to hurt anyone, not for revenge. But because spending my entire life being worth 1/85th of my sister needed to be said out loud, needed to be witnessed, needed to exist somewhere other than just in my aching chest. I started a blog. Anonymous at first. I called it The Forgotten Daughter. I wrote about the house and the jewelry. Then I wrote about everything else. The college tuition, the rent money, the weddings, the attention and neglect. The feeling of watching your parents pour everything into your sibling while giving you scraps and calling it fair. I wrote it all. The blog went viral in 3 days. Shares on social media. Comments from thousands of people with similar stories. News outlets picked it up. Woman exposes parents' favoritism after receiving jewelry while sister gets house. The story was everywhere. My post had struck something raw in people. The comments section filled with people sharing their own stories of being the forgotten child, the disappointing one, the one who was expected to understand why they deserved less. That's when my phone started ringing. My mother, my sister, unknown numbers that turned out to be reporters. I didn't answer. I let them go to voicemail. My mother's voice shaking. People are calling us. They're saying terrible things. Please call me back. We need to talk about this. Jessica's voice angry. You're destroying our family. Mom can't stop crying. How could you do this? I listened to each message once. Then I archived them. The story kept growing. A daytime talk show reached out. Would I come on and tell my story? I said yes. Not anonymous anymore. I was done hiding. Done protecting them from the consequences of their choices. 2 weeks later, I walked onto that stage in front of a studio audience and millions of viewers at home. The host was sympathetic, but direct. "Tell us what happened with your parents' estate." I told it simply. The house, the jewelry, the numbers. The audience gasped when I revealed the dollar amounts. $688,000 versus $8,000. Some people started crying. The host leaned forward. "And your parents are watching this right now?" "I assume so," I said. "I sent them a ticket to be in the audience. They didn't come." "What would you say to them if they were here?" she asked. I looked directly at the camera. I'd ask them why. Why I wasn't worth the same investment as my sister. Why my achievements didn't earn the same celebration. Why loving me seemed to come with so many conditions while loving her was effortless. I'd ask them if they ever saw me at all, or if I was always just the disappointing warm-up act before the main event. The audience erupted in applause. After the show, women approached me crying, hugging me, telling me their stories. My parents gave my brother everything too. I was never good enough either. "Thank you for saying what I've never been brave enough to say." I went home that night and found my inbox flooded. But 3 emails stood out. One from my mother, one from Jessica, and one from a lawyer. My mother's email was long, rambling, defensive. "We never meant to hurt you. We thought we were helping each child according to their needs. Jessica needed more support. You were always so capable, so independent. We knew you'd be fine without us." There it was, the justification I'd heard my whole life. I was fine without them, so they gave me nothing, as if being capable meant I deserved neglect. Jessica's email was shorter. "I never knew it was this unequal. I thought they helped you too. I'm sorry. I didn't see it." I almost believed her, but then I remembered all the family dinners where she'd talked about their financial help while I sat silent. She'd chosen not to see it. The third email was from a lawyer, but not the kind I expected. He represented my parents. They were threatening to sue me for defamation, claiming I'd lied about the inheritance amounts, demanding I retract everything and issue a public apology. I forwarded the email to my own lawyer, along with the estate documents I'd copied before walking out of that first meeting. My lawyer's response was one sentence: "Let them try." They never filed. Because everything I'd said was true, documented, and impossible to dispute. Instead, a week later, I got a certified letter. My parents wanted to meet. Just me, them, and a mediator. They wanted to make this right. I almost said no, almost told them it was too late. But David squeezed my hand and said, "You should hear what they have to say, if only to get closure." So I agreed. We met at a neutral office, a family therapist acting as mediator. My parents looked smaller somehow. My mother's hands were shaking again, worse than before. My father was 3 months gone, so it was just her and her guilt. The mediator started. "Let's begin with what each person wants from this meeting." My mother spoke first, her voice breaking. "I want my daughter back. I want to explain. I want her to understand we never meant to hurt her." "Your turn," the mediator said to me. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, saw the tears, the shaking hands, the genuine distress. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness. "I want you to say it," I said. Out loud. "I want you to say that you treated me as less valuable than Jessica, that you gave her everything and gave me nothing, that you made me earn every scrap of love while you gave her unconditional acceptance. I want you to say it. My mother sobbed. We did. We did treat you differently. We thought you didn't need us the same way. You were so strong, so capable. Jessica was fragile. She needed our help. I needed you too, I said. My voice didn't shake. I needed you to see me, to celebrate my achievements, to invest in my dreams, to make me feel like I was worth the same as my sister. But you didn't, and now you're here because I embarrassed you, not because you finally realized you were wrong. That's not true, Mom protested. We're here because we love you. No, I said. You're here because thousands of people are calling you out online. Because your church friends saw the TV show. Because your neighbors are whispering. You're here because you got caught, not because you had an epiphany. The mediator tried to intervene, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. I pulled out a piece of paper. On it, I'd written a number. $340,000. This is half the value of the house you gave Jessica. This is what equal would have looked like. If you want to make this right, you write me a check for this amount. You equalize what you gave us. You prove with dollars that you finally see the inequality. My mother went pale. We don't have that kind of money. The house was our only asset. Then sell it, I said. Sell the house. Split the proceeds equally between me and Jessica. Show me with actions, not words, that you understand what you did. The room went silent. The mediator looked shocked. My mother looked devastated. You want me to take away Jessica's house? I want you to treat us equally, I said. For the first time in our lives, I want you to show me I'm worth the same as my sister. This is how you do that. I stood up. Think about it. When you're ready to make it equal, call me. Until then, we have nothing to talk about. I walked out. That was 6 months ago. They didn't sell the house. Instead, my mother took out a reverse mortgage, used the money to write me a check for $340,000. Jessica got to keep the house. I got the equalization. The check arrived with a note. You were always worth this much. We should have shown you sooner. We're sorry. I deposited the check, paid off my condo, put the rest in investments. The money didn't heal anything, but it was acknowledgement, proof, in their own hand, that they finally saw the inequality, that I'd been right all along. Jessica and I don't talk much now. She kept the house but knows what it cost. Every time she walks through that door, she knows what I had to do to get what should have been mine from the start. My mother and I have a relationship now, careful and boundaried. She's trying. Some days that feels like enough. Some days it doesn't. But here's what I know. I don't need their validation anymore. I needed it at 10, at 16, at 25. At 37, I know my worth. And it's not measured in houses or jewelry or checks written under duress. I built a life they never invested in, and it's a good life. Strong, real, mine. If you've ever been the child who got the jewelry while your sibling got the house, metaphorically or literally, this story is for you. You're not crazy. The inequality is real. And demanding to be valued equally isn't cruel or greedy. It's just asking for what you should have been given freely from the start. The same love, the same investment, the same belief that you mattered. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight to be seen as equal in your own family? Did you demand what you deserved, or did you walk away? I read every story, and if you want more stories about people who refuse to accept being valued as less, subscribe. There's always another forgotten child finding their voice.